Greetings fanboys and fangirls, Jared here with another video review from Fanboys Forever. Today I'm going to bring you a review of the brand new DC Multiverse Batman and Batmobile Gold Label Collection set from McFarlane Toys. This set has been one that we've been looking forward to for quite a while because it's promised to fix a lot of the issues with the previous Batmobile set from the Flash film. And it also includes McFarlane's very first take on the regular 1989 Michael Keaton Batman. Of course, they had already done the Flash figure, but that was based on Keaton's revised suit from that movie. And this is supposed to be an interpretation of his original. Looking at the box, we can see that it has a pretty nice little product shot on the front of Batman and the Batmobile. We have the movie logo. We have the gold label sticker. On the bottom of the box, we have that same exact shot. On the side, I really like how prominent the movie logo is. And on the back, we have a really nice shot of Batman with a Batmobile, and it shows him fitting inside. On the bottom, it's really nothing to write home about, but you can see the barcode in case you do need it. However, this is, as far as I know, an Amazon exclusive, so yeah, that's about the only way you can get it. And before we crack this thing open, don't forget to please subscribe to the channel and like the video because these things really do help us out. And of course, stick around through the whole review because I'm going to be doing some very in-depth comparisons between this and the original release from The Flash. With all that out of the way, let's begin. All right, we'll go ahead and get it open, kind of do a little unboxing here. Just like the last Batmobile, it does come in this funny kind of cardboard slip that does keep the Batmobile in place, and I imagine does keep it stable during all the transit. And in one of the most undignified ways you can possibly package a figure, here is Batman taped to the bottom of the cardboard. And look at that, all nice and matted up, just like the way that we originally wanted it. The only assembly that you'll have to do are the tail fins. Now the cool thing is that they do label these, so this one's left and this one's right, so you can't mess it up too bad. And that clips in, and voila, the Batmobile is ready to roll, literally. All right, so first impressions are really good on this thing. I'm really liking that new matte black paint job. I think a lot of us realized the last time that it was way too shiny, and definitely I'm glad to see it in this more matte black. It feels a lot more movie accurate this way, and it certainly looks a whole lot nicer. I also like that the wheels down here are a lot more just silvery without the gold highlights. I think that looks more movie accurate for the first film. You can see on the back here that things are largely the same as they were before with those red tail lights. Now, of course, we're going to pop open the hood. You do so by hitting this button, and then you just pull it forward just like last time. But there's a couple of different ways. You can just open it up like this if you would like. So you can do it in more the traditional way that the old Kenner vehicle used to do. Or you can bring it down like this and do it in the movie way. So that's cool that you have two different ways to do it, and both are equally just as effective as the other. Now, of course, you can see that they've done all kinds of cool interior stuff here. And I really like what they did with all the gauges and everything. And even though there's not a whole lot of detail there, I'm glad that they at least put silver on those things because it does make them look nice. You can also see that some detailing has happened right there beside of the nice seat. And the seat itself is actually more detailed than you might think it is, with a whole lot of that kind of leathery look. Of course, we have the front of the car with the orange lights. I'm still so amused that this is just in a big plastic baggie. Presentation. Putting the Batmobile to the background there a little bit, you can see the Batman does include this DC stand. And here he is, Batman, right out of the packaging. And I think that first impressions of this guy are actually really nice. I've seen some very unflattering photos of this figure, and you may have as well. But in hand, it really doesn't feel like I thought it would. I've seen a lot of pictures where people have the head posed in some very, well, unflattering ways, I think. Because as we know, Keaton really couldn't move his head in this bat suit, and neither could he really in Batman Returns either. he was very limited. He was usually just looking a little up, a little down, or he would have to do the bat turn, as people would eventually coin it, as he would have to pretty much turn his whole body. But when I see people pose this figure up, they have the head looking every which way, and they're saying that it looks really off. Well, that's because you're posing it wrong. If you really want him to look super movie accurate, I think you really have to get him in kind of this sort of angle. So I don't really mean to be one of those guys, but I do think there's a little bit of user error going on slightly. As for the likeness, I'm actually quite surprised about this. I mean, look, call me crazy, but I think this looks a fair bit like Keaton. I really do. I don't think it's hardly as off as I've heard anybody say. And to me, that looks like the guy. I think the eyes are really nice on this too. I've gotten a lot of McFarlane figures. The eyes always vary incredibly from figure to figure, but I don't know if I just got lucky or what this time, but they're just about as straight on as I could hope for. And it stands up to scrutiny pretty well, even at this really, really close range that I have the figure at right here. So I think that that part looks really good. Another thing I want to brag on is I think the chest looks really nice. This is actually something that I've seen some companies struggle with, because it seems like they're always kind of making it too buff or too slender. And I feel like this strikes a really good balance. I feel like this is just about right for that rubber kind of muscle suit that he was wearing. I also feel like that the belt looks really nice and accurate, and that the glove design is there too. And they even have the little ridges on the hand gloves right there. So that looks really good too. Moving on down, I really do like what they did with the boots. They look really nice, and I like how they have the accuracy of really emphasizing that he's wearing like Nike sneakers with just covers over them. Now, of course, they're not going to be able to put the little Nike logo on there, because he really did have that in the movie, believe it or not. But, it gives the illusion of that kind of accuracy from the film. Now, if you're hankering for your figure to look real movie inaccurate and really kind of strange, then you need to pose it like a bunch of these guys in the reviews, where he's like looking all over the place and he's like doing this. I've seen some of the worst shots of this guy, and they're like, that doesn't look like the movie. Yeah, because he couldn't do that in the movie. You can't fault them for adding extra articulation and things, but this is a black cowl and a black neck piece, and look, you'd never even know it was there as long as you have it posed appropriately. It's just an extra option if you want to articulate the figure that way. There's only two small gripes I have with it. Maybe the head is slightly, ever so slightly large. I think a lot of it has to do with posing, like I said. And in some ways, I don't even think the head is that large. I think it's more that maybe the neck needed to be slightly beefier to meet this part, because if you do this with your fingers, you don't even see it. But what you want to make sure of is that you have it pressed down all the way. And I almost feel like if there was another peg on there where it sat just a tiny little bit lower, and not even hardly at all, that it would alleviate that completely. The other thing that I want to talk about is that this is gold. And the truth is that the actual, movie costume isn't. It's yellow. But I had a feeling this would be the case for this release, because this is the gold label edition, right? It definitely does look like a lot of the old action figure representations of this costume. So I think that that actually works. But definitely the Bat logo, which they did use the 89 version of the Bat logo, which I'm happy about, should be bright yellow. Now, I'm sure that we'll eventually see that, okay? This is McFarlane we're talking about. They're going to have a million releases of this mold. But for now, yeah, if you're wanting straight movie accuracy, that's going to be an issue. One last little thing, and I think this could actually be remedied with a steady hand and a little bit of bravery, and that's that they didn't attempt to do the black outline around the Bat logo. And so it has the effect of making it look like there's too much yellow there, when actually it's exactly the right amount of yellow. It's just that the black lining isn't there. So it makes it look just slightly too big. I really think that it would be amazing to see what the figure would look like once I take my Gundam marker and simply add in that black lining. And you know what? I'm going to do it before the end of the review. Definitely you'll see it. But yeah, I am overall really pleased with the figure. Articulation-wise, there's definitely some things to discuss. You can see that just like a lot of McFarlane figures, he has this floating piece right here between the shoulder and the arm. And that does a lot to give him some range while covering up the inner workings of it. The arms can go all the way out and around over 90 degrees, so that's nice. You also get a rotation at the bicep. There's a nice double joint, and I'm sure that this is more than Keaton could have done with his elbow, let alone the stuntman. And then we have a rotation at the wrist. We have hinges at both wrists. There's no cut here at the glove or anything. Like I shown you earlier already with the head, he can do way more than Michael Keaton could have done, and it's to the detriment of a lot of posing when you start doing it like this, because I think that it ends up, looking kind of wacky because he couldn't do this in the movie. And it also kind of reveals that the neck is a little small once you start moving it around. So your best bet is to keep it in a more neutral pose to keep it looking movie accurate. Now with the chest, you have lots of range in the diaphragm, and this really shocked me, especially with how natural it looks as you flex it around. So I was really pleased with that. You also have plenty of range in the waist itself. Of course, moving on down, we do have a pretty decent kick, but honestly, it's one of those kicks to where you would end up warping out the shorts piece right here if you did much more than that. However, it's there, so if you work with it, I'm sure you could probably get more, especially if you heated up this piece. But for now, that's what feels comfortable for me. He can do the splits really well and way more than any of the suit performers I'm sure could have. He does have a slight rotation up there, but you can't do a whole lot with it. There is a double jointed knee so that he can almost kick his own butt, and there is the bat butt, by the way. And of course, we do get no kind of boot rotation, but we do get rotation at the ankle. We do get a hinge at the ankle, and they lock in kind of some funny positions, so it can make it a little weird sometimes posing the figure. And we get toe joints. And you can use these in conjunction with each other to kind of get some results that are similar to like an ankle pivot, but it's not exactly. It's more like cheating it a little. And again, you can get a lot more than the suit performers could have. So you kind of end up getting some things that maybe look a little uncanny. So again, I think my advice would be to just be sort of slightly conservative with what you're doing, and it'll make the figure look all that much better. Also, there's always tips to give about posing the cape. Remember that in Batman 89, anytime that he's in action, that the cape is kind of swooped back like this. And that's definitely what I would suggest you would do here, and that's how the figure looks best. I don't know if there's enough cape to bring it forward to make it look really good laying over his shoulders, because the big problem when you do that is the cape bunches right up here and does weird things on the sides. But if you bring the arms in a little bit, then you can make it look a little more natural, so even that's not impossible. You can bring the arms out, and you can attempt to drape that cape just a little bit over them to try to get something like Batman's wingspan when he scares the muggers at the beginning of the movie. But it's a little anemic compared to what it should be, and it's not even meant to be that. My guess is we'll probably eventually get some kind of special release of this figure where he has the big wingspan. Like I said, I have a strong feeling this is going to be released in, a billion ways, so we'll see. Batman doesn't come with any accessories aside from the stand, so that's a little disappointing. I think they could have at least sprung for a Batarang, y'all. All right, so let's see a comparison between him and his Flash counterpart here of an older Batman, and you can see that they look pretty cool together. Here he is in more of a comparable pose, and you can see that they've done a really good job making sure that the heights actually match up really well. And another quick comparison, even though it's kind of the 6.5-inch scale, I guess. I'm not really sure what you'd call it. This is the NECA Keaton Batman. And I definitely think that if you could combine these two, you would definitely have the perfect Batman 89 figure, because there's certain things about each of them that I think are best, but I think that they're pretty interesting to look at side by side. And here it is with a Mezco Batman. Now, I never bought the 89 Mezco Batman. I had a big mishap with my pre-order where it got canceled and all of this. So I never did get it, but I ended up feeling kind of lucky I didn't, because I've seen so many issues with that figure online. It just feels like everybody's just tearing apart and falling apart. But it looks to me like that the scale is really nice for this, and maybe even better for a 6-inch figure than it is for a 7-inch. But this is the closest thing I have to an 89 Mezco Batman. So let's go ahead and see how he fits in the Batmobile. So looking at the car, we just pop the hood open, and you can notice right away that unlike the last one, this color actually matches the rest of the Batmobile. So thank goodness for that one. And we will work him inside a little bit. Now, this is going to be the biggest challenge, is working with these ears here. And I've seen multiple people kind of have trouble with this, but I think that the best thing to do is to kind of bring him to the side like this and then bring the head in. Let me show you that motion again. So what I do is I bring it to the side and cock the head down and clear the ears, and there's a compartment where the ears kind of go into. If you just do this, you're not going to have any trouble closing that, but that is a very important step, and if you don't do it, you're going to have issues trying to fold them in, and you probably even damage the ears. You can see that as far as how he looks in the cockpit, I think it looks really nice. Now, I know it should be a two-seater, which is something I messed up on in my review of the Flash version. I talked about how in Batman Returns it was just a one-seater, but it turned out there was just a lot of photography in the movie and angles that made it look like a one-seater. It was still a two-seater. All right, so you can see that it closes up just fine in there, and the best I can do for a shot of Batman in the cockpit is you can see that there he is, and he actually looks really cool in there. Again, I will say that the cockpit, just like last time, is shaped funny, right? Anybody who knows a lot about the car, the actual vehicle itself, knows that it shouldn't be that tall. But this is a cheat, of course, because they're trying to give you enough clearance to put the figure in. So it's just one of those things. This is probably about as big as McFarlane could get it and keep it at cost and keep everything feasible economically. So it's something that you won't even notice too much, but the shape is a little off for the canopy. All right, so let's definitely do some comparisons. Here it is alongside the original release from The Flash. Something I will say, just in retrospect, after now having seen The Flash, is even though I really liked the movie a lot, of course the effects, you know, there's some horrible effects in the film, but the content of the movie itself was really good. But one thing that I am a little upset about is that the Batmobile receives no action in the movie whatsoever. It just sits there. I mean, you never even see it drive. So I take back all the things I said in the review for this thing, talking about, oh, I'm sure we'll see some action, and it's untelling what the Batmobile would do. It did nothing. So there you go. It is funny to see them side by side because this is so much shinier. And this is really just a matter of preference. I think it makes it look a lot more like a premium piece to have this matte paint job. You know, and the shiny is nice too over here, but it makes it look a lot more plasticky and toyetic. Now, let's see them this way. Now, what's interesting right away is that you can see the funny gold logos on the wheels over here. Over here, they're straight silver. I think the straight silver looks more movie accurate to me, but I'm no connoisseur or expert on exactly what the wheel wells should look like in the bat symbols because so much of the cinematography is dark in the original '89 film. But that is one interesting difference. This is still painted pretty silver right through here. Now, of course, you can see how obviously gray this canopy is compared to this body, and how this one does a much better job of matching the rest of the body. You can also see that this looks super plasticky on this canopy, whereas this one looks more like the same kind of material as the rest of the body. Now from the front, the lights are pretty much the same tone, so that's not really much of a difference. And you can see on the back that really it's pretty similar, honestly. The tail lights look the same. There's not really much of a difference here, so you can just see that this is a lot shinier. For some reason, for me, from the back, I like the shininess over here from the back. It's just that from all the other angles, I feel like that the more matte finish looks nicer over here. It could be because in Batman Returns, there's some shots like this to where it's kind of shinier looking. So maybe that's what's giving me that feeling on it. Yeah, overall, this one definitely wins in a head-to-head against the other, just because that matte tone and how nice that the canopy finally matches the rest of the body. I mean, these are big improvements and big wins in my opinion. So in conclusion, this is a really nice set. I love getting a Batmobile that has so many corrections on it from the last version. I love how the canopy actually matches this time, and the matte coloring does make it look a whole lot more presentable and interesting. I really do enjoy this Batman figure. I feel like it was a really good attempt by Todd, and that it actually looks a decent bit like the '89 suit. Now, it's not perfect, but then again, this entire set is coming to us at a really good bargain. Basically, you're paying just about $70 for a really high quality Batman figure and a really high quality Batmobile that's in the somewhere between 6 and 7 inch scale. And I think it comes together really nice as a package. And this being a gold label and everything, it's been in high demand. And the pre-orders have sold out every single time. I don't know how long it's going to be until Amazon has this more readily available. I feel like they will eventually though. So don't give up and don't give in when it comes to scalper prices, because I feel like that this will be available and that they definitely won't ignore the huge demand for this. And of course, if you're interested in this Batman figure, keep in mind he will also be available in the Warner Brothers 100th Anniversary Batman collection that they have coming out. I think that's a 6-pack. So it's a really exciting time to be a Batman collector with McFarlane Toys, because they are offering a lot of great products. To me, the best part about these products is that they're very affordable. When you look at a set like this, then you're getting a really good value. Alright friends, be sure to let me know what you thought about this set down below in the comments. Let me know, do you think it's worth it to upgrade to this over the other Batmobile? I would definitely like to know your thoughts down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we have new videos and content all the time. And of course, be sure to like the video because that really helps us out. And as always, God bless you and yours. And I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out. As you can see, sir, I have scraped the entire car with a Brillo pad and spray painted the canopy to match the rest of the car. It's good, Alfred. Looks nice. You've done well. Keep this up and I'll let you eat Christmas dinner upstairs. Yay!